It wasn't just a disease. This was an intention. Something inside the flesh knew where to go and what to build. The weak were chosen first. Low defense, poor hemocrypt output. Perfect. But they weren't just hosts. They were labor. And what they're building isn't for us, because something older is about to return.
From the global data collected, a disturbing trend has emerged. This year, hospitals are overwhelmed, especially with elderly and children. They arrive with eerily similar symptoms: violent coughing, seizures, fainting, vomiting blood, and in some extreme cases, they expel hemocrypt just like the old doctor did last year. But unlike that isolated case, this time, it's massive. Thousands are showing the same signs. The spores are spreading, fast, through direct contact, droplets, even airborne transmission. We've classified them as Tier 4 suspects. These are individuals with weak immune systems and fragile metabolism, the malnourished, the elderly, the infants. They are extremely vulnerable to all infections, especially Carno organica spores. Then there are the Tier 3 suspects, those with relatively stronger bodies. They eat well, stay fit, and maintain hygiene. Some of them manage to resist the infection, but many still fail. And the worst part, over 75% of Tier 4 suspects transform into flesh drudges. It often starts in the outskirts of towns or rural villages. Many never even make it to hospitals. They rot and mutate in silence, while neighbors remain unaware. But there is something even more horrifying, something worse than we imagined, something we weren't ready for. There have been new reports, and they are deeply unsettling. Several flesh drudges have been seen moving in unison, not as mindless beasts, but as if they were part of a coordinated unit. They gather in groups, each one performing tasks together, like a primitive hive, engaging in collective laboras if driven by a shared purpose. These flesh drudges are monstrous to behold: height, 2 to 2.5 meters, posture, hunched and skeletal, skin, pale, corpse-like, stretched over bone, eyes, hollow cavities, lifeless, mouth, permanently gaping, with shattered lower jaws, stench, a mix of rot, bile, and bone dust, sound, the eerie scraping of bone and sinew as they move. On their backs, they carry a tumorous graft sack, a fleshy, grotesque pouch used to store raw materials like flesh, organs, and bone fragments they've consumed for transport. Their right arms are no longer human. They've mutated into a bony weapon called the ossiclaw, sharp, jagged, and designed for butchering corpses or tearing into the living. They shuffle like zombies, but there's something calculated beneath the sway. They aren't just wandering, they are spreading. They carry spores, so even if you survive an attack, you may not remain yourself for long. Contact means infection. Infection means transformation. Current field reports indicate multiple types of activity: digging up graveyards, harvesting the dead, raiding livestock pens, attacking human settlements, stalking vulnerable individuals, children, the elderly, the disabled, the Tier 4 suspects. They are not random. They are working, building, but among them, a new strain has been spotted. A few days later, new reports emerged, this time of something far more disturbing. Eyewitnesses described a strange alien creature moving like a centipede, but the size of a 2-meter serpent. Its body was long, flexible, armored, a horrific blend of vertebrae and lobster carapace. They call it the myelophage. The myelophage resembles a living spinal cord, armored in hardened crustacean-like plates. Its head ends in a piercing beak, which it uses to strike with terrifying precision, targeting the spine of its victim. Once it latches on, the horror begins. It extends a proboscis-like tongue designed not to feed in the traditional sense, but to inject specialized graft enzymes into the spinal column of its host. These enzymes are stored within 3 internal graft sacs, each one pulsating under its armored surface. Once the injection is complete, the myelophage coils its fibered tail around the host's spine, fusing with it in a parasitic bond. From that moment on, the host is no longer in control. The nervous system is hijacked, motor functions overridden. The body becomes a puppet, a vessel for carne organica, and now, they're everywhere. Dozens, hundreds of myelophages have emerged all at once, a swarm of parasites, each desperately seeking a host before their short biological clock runs out. They must infect, or they die. The infection rate is staggering. Within hours, entire districts saw coordinated collapses. People fell, then rose again, under foreign control. This sudden, overwhelming event is now being referred to as the initial parasite outbreak. Its origin remains unknown. How they entered our cities, our homes, our bodies, still a mystery. And worse, this is not the only anomaly we've discovered. Something else. Good news. Only a handful of myelophages have successfully infected new hosts. But with every strain of hope comes a shadow. And now, the bad news. Some of the infected hosts began to change, not just into carriers or flesh drudges, but into something entirely different, something more evolved, more connected to the hive. We now call this new form Nex host. The Nex host stands nearly 2 meters tall, its form grotesque yet deliberate, as if evolution was accelerated and hijacked by something unnatural. Its head resembles a warped skull, crowned with twisted bone horns, with deep black sclera and a purple pupil glowing like an unnatural gem. Its mouth is not a mouth, just an unnerving hollow cavity that never closes. Its body appears skinless, only layers of taut muscle, exposed tendons, and bone, as if the flesh was peeled away intentionally. The arms are elongated, the fingers tipped with razor-sharp claws, while its reptilian legs make its movements hauntingly silent yet agile. But what's most terrifying is its connection. Unlike the flesh drudge, this creature communicates directly with the hive, the core mind of Carno Organica. It acts not as a mindless slave, but as a servant, a chosen vessel. It produces vast quantities of hemocrypt, a blood organic currency essential to the hive's growth. In exchange, Carno Organica feeds it nutrients, a twisted barter system carried out through a parasitic network. This is done via what we now call the spinal leech, a fusion of the Nex host's spine and the original myelophage, creating a living pipeline between host and hive. But then, something worse happened. When a military strike team attempted to neutralize a Nex host, it suddenly exploded. Not a normal death, not self-destruction. It was intentional, an act of biological detonation, a possible last command from the hive, a message. We don't yet know what it means, but one thing is clear. We are no longer just dealing with infection. We are now facing adaptation, and Carne Organica is evolving. Stay vigilant. This is only the beginning.
A few days after the detonation of the Nex host, something began to change. The ground around the blast site was no longer soil. It turned dark crimson, the color of coagulated blood. Its texture became soft and spongy, and each step left a temporary imprint that pulsed, then disappeared, as if the land itself was breathing. The earth wasn't dead, it was alive, or worse, infected.